bit of material. If you know the brand of lock and the type of lock, you can go online and figure out what those actual increments can be, so you keep within spec. That vastly shortens your time, so that's good. But that's not a working key by a long shot. What we do with this key, do the same. Put it in the lock, turn left, turn right, turn left, bouncy bouncy, turn right, bouncy bouncy, and then well, let's see, hold on a second. So we turn left, and we see that again, this pin is not moving, so that will leave a mark. We turn the other side, same goes for pin stack number 2. So there will be marks in the valleys we just created. And that will look, well, you see a valley, there's a mark in there, not that clear, but we get it there. So in the valley, there's a mark, so we take another layer of material off. Okay? So rinse and repeat, we put this in again. But if we start turning this, then pin stack number 4 is the correct height. So that red bit is no longer preventing the key from turning. Yes? So another pin will prevent the lock to turn in that direction. So, and that pin number 2 is still being prevented to turn 1. So number 2 will still mark, number 4 won't, because it'll just move freely. So let's unlock in another one, so there will be a marker number 2, and at position number 1 there's 1. There is also 1. So you keep on repeating this process until all the pins are at the correct level. That's the original key. This is the copy I made without knowing the original code, of course. And you see that this doesn't really look like a cut key. But if you look at the important bits, that's there, and there. That's the correct same height as there. So that'll work. It looks funny, but it'll open. So actually you could take this material off, so to make it a swervy key also, and then it would work also. So this is basically what impressioning is. And if you're any good at it, you win prizes. And now I'm going to demo this. So I didn't feed the demo god, so we'll see how that happens. You will be using quite a lot of force on your key. Not terrible amount of force, but enough to ache your hand, so you use grips for that. I believe you guys, if you bought the impressioning set, there are tiny vice grips in it. These work quite well, but if you're in training for a championship and you're ruining boxes and boxes of keys at a time, step away from those things, because that'll hurt in the end. But for a couple of locks, no problem whatsoever, they do work. I have some custom grip made, but there are several things to purchase. We'll get to that later. So you need a blank that has to be the correct blank for that lock, ideally. We tried several materials, but the standard factory brass seems to be working the best, because it's soft enough to actually take an impression and hard enough to not snap off if you're putting any tension on it. Okay, let's try this. I use a tiny tool to make scratches at the point where the pins would be. This is a tool that has a normal core, but we took all the pins out and put steel drill bits in it, so it makes scratches on your lock, on your key. Let's see if we can demo this in a second. Work. Yeah. This is what an uncut key looks like. See, lunar surface. It's crap. Well, it's not crap, but there's. Get it in focus a bit. You see? That's what an uncut key looks like. There's some hardened. What is it?
Plating.
There's some hardened plating on it. I want to take off. And what I did, I took it through that thingy. And then what happens is, focus is hard. It makes marks like that. That's where a pin would be. So what I can do now, because if you buy these in the box, this is wider than your first allowed cut. So I can take material off. So normally a lock would have, this is an abos that has 9 possible depths. So there's 5 spaces and 9 possible depths. So what I can do is, if I know it's an abos, I start off with a key that's cut to a 1111, because higher doesn't exist. Normally. So that's what I'm going to do now. It's not really my normal operation thing. The important thing is to work neatly. That's about it. So I haven't touched the lock yet. So now look at this key. I mean, this is the part that has not been touched. This is a filing. You see, it's way smoother than the part that was not filed. So the fun part is, if I take that lunar surface we saw before and make a dent in it, a tiny dent, that's probably hard to see.
Yeah.
But in that even surface I just created, you'll see everything. So this is a neat technique to start off. If you don't have the exact spacings, or you don't have this tool, what you can do is just take a blade and file the top layer off. Try to file it as smoothly as possible, as even as possible, so you can see actual dents in there. Even if it's not, it doesn't need to shine, because then if you put a light on it, you'll be blinded and you can't see anything anymore. That happens quite soon. And so you want to make it a bit dull finish. But if you don't have the correct file and it starts to be a more rough finish, even then, if you work evenly, because if you have a fresh plowed field, which is definitely not even, but it's consistent. If you walk straight past that field, you can see those marks. You can easily see that something happened in that field. So do it consistently. So now, key, lock, in, turn left, wiggle it. Duh. Hold on a second. Let me move this. That'll work. Okay. So key in, left, up and down, up and down. That was the other side. Up and down, up and down, up and down. The other left. Okay. So that's it. That's all the time I needed at the door. And I was being slowly so you could see what I was doing. Now, if you... That was my first one.
About how much force did you use?
About nothing. I would suggest start off with close to nothing and see if you get marks. Because if you use too much, it will break. Okay, this is there.
It's not focusing.
It's absolutely not focusing, but I'm trying to. It's there. Correct. There you go. Okay. There you go. That's a mark.
Right there on the edge there?
Yeah.
That now in the middle.
Shiny circle there.
Looks like a meteorite.
Yeah.
It
impact.
is.
Wow.
That's a mark. And you see, it's not in the middle of the key, which is actually for this type of key normal. Because if you look at it straight on, your key shape does this. And your pins, of course, are in the middle. So if this is your pin and your key does that, if it starts like this, it's going to mark on the side. So that's okay, that's the place you would expect your mark. So position 1, I have a mark. That's the clearest. If you're not sure about anything, leave it. As long as you have an option to pick something, then you go. What you can do is I use calipers like this. So, and these are marked with the possible depths of an anus. I see that I'm a bit off on the other ones. So now you can just file. That done.
When you say work neatly, you mean like sort of really even
Yes.
strokes?
What you need to do is make sure your file is at the same direction, so at correct angle, and only file forward. I don't want to see this, so it's like this, this, and take tiny steps, tiny increments. And that'll be it. Okay. So then, it's the lock again. Using a bit more force than normally to get nice marks. Got one on 3, got one on 4. Come on. There's something going on.